Hi everybody and welcome to the Mullins Studios podcast. This is the pilot that we're working on and hopefully this will go well because I have no idea how this is going to turn out in the end. You're editing this.
Yeah, I am. Originally I wanted to do it a different way, but you're wanting to just stick with this setup, which later on, whenever we get more familiar with how we want the setup to look, we'll experiment with it. But for the time being, right now, this is how we've got it going.
Yeah, it's working. I think it'll do fine-ish, hopefully. I don't know. But, yeah, for the pilot, we're not going to do, like, a whole lot. We're just going to test out the waters and see how this goes. And in the comments section, please let us know what you think of it and any tips and bits on how we can improve either audio, visual, and you're not going to see, like, fireworks going everywhere. But, we've been wanting to do a podcast for a while, and we think it'll be fun. So,
let's go ahead and just kind of give people like a little bit of a description as to who we are and what we are.
Most people know who I am, so I'm going to let you do your introduction first.
Okay, well, some of you probably already know me as BlackCross, but for those that don't know, I have a channel called BlackCross Gameplay. And what I normally do is that I've been basically collecting old games as well as new games and playing them and recording my experience with them. And the reason I've been doing this is that ever since like the PlayStation 3 era, I was kind of disappointed with how the gaming market has kind of pushed itself out there.
Yeah, with unfinished games, DLC, microtransactions, the dreaded loot boxes. Ooh.
Well, that's been the most recent thing, but we'll get into that discussion in the
future.
Yeah, but the point is that I just decided to go back into playing some of the older games, and I actually found quite some enjoyment with some of the older games that I started playing with. But originally, I had a YouTube channel years ago.
You had like 2 different attempts, I believe, didn't you?
This actually makes my second attempt nowadays.
Oh, second attempt. Okay.
Yeah, this is the second attempt. But the first attempt was basically just a straight-out review thing, BlackCross Reviews. And didn't last very long.
It didn't. I mean, I still remember your infamous, like, not bad. I mean, he literally reviewed the game Infamous review for the PlayStation 3 made by Sucker Punch, which is actually... Do you still have that game?
I don't.
Oh, I actually liked that.
Infamous 1 is good, but Infamous 2 is more or less just a copy and paste.
But it mentioned Epic Mickey.
Did it?
I think so. You know the little theater where they have like fake titles?
Oh, yeah.
Mentioned like God of War, Epic Mickey.
I remember now.
Other titles. Gosh. I actually wouldn't mind having the first Infamous because I really liked it.
Well, the funny thing is they re-released it for PS4 if I'm not mistaken.
Physical?
I think so. Don't quote me on that.
I'm sorry, I'm a sucker for my physical data.
I am too.
Have you seen my shelf?
But anyway, and just the first set, I tried to kind of force myself to do a review every week, and I found out then that you can't really force yourself to do a video. You have to let yourself be willing to, and it kind of ran me sour. So 4 years later, I ended up doing a second attempt, but this time towards Let's Plays, because I got inspired like with Markiplier, Jacksepticeye, another one like Cynical, and so on and so forth.
Damn Marr pals.
Damn Marr pals, yeah. But I started doing a Let's Play, and the more I started to do other videos, you know, allowing myself to experiment with different projects and stuff, the more I started to get more involved in YouTube, and now even Twitch. So it's like, now that I've eased myself into this, I've now been more and more amped up to do this now. And personally, I'm really glad that I've gotten so deep into this now, because now I've gotten to a point to where there's no going back. I've enjoyed it too much.
Doing really good with Twitch. You made a whole schedule which I could not do. I mean, I've done it time to time, but not a consistent schedule.
It's really hard at first, especially with what I've been having to go through.
Yeah.
But I have to say, now that I know how to go about it, I have a good ideal scheduling. It's a matter of, like, can I do it consistently to where people can tune in anytime and know that I will be there 100% of the time that I scheduled it. Now,
you usually do nighttime. Because we work first shift. We both work the same job. me longer than he has, but regardless, but yeah, you've been doing set schedule not every day. You've been taking Thursday and Friday off.
Yeah, Thursday and mostly because of like other videos, like for example our playthrough of Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah.
There's also another project video that I'm working on, which hopefully that will get done soon.
I just gotta do my part.
Yeah.
I've been lazy on it, but I get distracted too. Oh, you could butterfly.
Anyway, but the point is that in terms of like what I do, the main thing that I've been kind of trending on is that I'm basically going back into retro game collecting and playing through the older games that I've never had a chance to play until now.
You know you're more than welcome to.
I know, but in terms of like collecting games that I've got, most people probably know me as the Sony fanboy, or most notably that I've been hearing is the Sony Pony, in which case saddle me one.
Pony?
Yes, there's the X-Boner, the Sony Pony. I forgot what Nintendo's is. Don't ask me why.
I'm not even gonna comment. No.
But I was like, you know
Nintendo
what?
fanboy.
But needless to say, for being a Sony fanboy, I actually am glad that I collect Sony games. Record, I'm not going for like a whole collection of anything.
Oh gosh, where the heck are you gonna put that in your room?
I wouldn't have it.
Yuck, I have all... Crap, I don't know how many is in the PS2 library, but...
I'm pretty sure it's well over 1,000.
1,000 plus PS2 games. Where's my bed? Okay. Oh, there it is. Here, I'm just gonna use all of these sports and shovelware games as blankets.
Actually, I don't think they'd be worth that much anyway. But the point is that I'm mostly collecting games that I've been wanting to play for a long time, and I built up a list. And minus the games that I've got collect right now, I've got like a good 300 games that I'm still needing to get. And that's still a lot.
Yeah, but I mean, you'll slowly get it. I mean, yuck, I'm going for a complete N64, and
which I'm proud of you, you know.
Yeah, that's something I've been wanting to do for a while, because that's like my favorite console. And I know there's a lot of sports games. A lot of sports games, but for me, the history of the console is very interesting. And there's so many great games on that I love. Super Mario 64, Banjo-Kazooie, Dodger 64, Mickey Speedway USA. Those two are like hidden gems for me.
Oh yeah.
And I'm a little nostalgic blind, but plus I just recently got an custom end labels for them, which comes really handy. It's actually something I worked on last week, cleaning the outer cartridge, the copper lens, and making them they work well, which was fun. But the only problem was my hand kind of was hurting from getting like the mark markings.
And the whole kitchen smelled of rubbing alcohol.
Hey, rubbing alcohol works. It works extremely well. Like if you have stickers on your games or those Sharpie markers, getting like 91% rubbing alcohol, it works tremendously.
Yeah, but like I say, I
was intoxicated as ever with that. I mean, my gosh.
But still, the fact that we go so far in depth with like trying to get it cleaned up and everything like that, in terms of like in my case recently right now, replacing broken cases and carefully putting the labels back onto the new cases and stuff, we get so
immersed,
not immersed, involved with our gaming hobby that we get to a point where we're no longer just collecting, we're preserving.
Yeah.
And it's reasons why we started doing the podcast ourselves is because we got inspired by other people. Like, for example, the CU podcast.
Other people? That's the only podcast I watch.
Well, not just...
Actually, no. There's one other podcast, but I only watch it for a little bit, called the ThomCast or Tom Pod. I forgot what it was. I'll have to give you the link for it. But it was a podcast that talked a lot of Thomas stuff.
Right.
And it was good. They don't do episodes all the time, just when they get to it. I think last time I checked they were on 9 episodes, I think, but it was still fun. If you haven't watched it, go check it out. But it was mostly the CU podcast and how much discussion and how much fun Pat and Ian can be.
Yeah, and that's what kind of started us into thinking maybe we should do our own podcast, and then all of a sudden me and Dale just kind of had a light bulb together at the same time.
Light bulb.
Yeah, we had that moment and we were like, why don't we both do one together? It makes sense. Plus, you and I get so involved with gaming that we tend to just run off into a discussion together, and we're just able to do it so easily.
Yes, granted, I'm not much of a talker, because I don't like to interrupt people, even though I get interrupted a lot.
Well, hopefully...
all the time.
Well, hopefully this will get you to do things better, especially with the podcast now. But anything else you want to add on to the pilot episode, or anything you want to point out before we move on to the next discussion?
I don't even know what the next discussion is.
I'm going to go ahead and bring up, and this one is going to be the first good one that gets us launched after the pilot, is should games cost more than $60? Now, for a long time, this discussion has kind of come up since the PlayStation 3, because for the longest time, games only cost $49.99. For the longest time.
Well, N64 games were $60.
They were?
Yes, some. I don't think all of them, but some of them was $60. I guess because it costed more to produce the cartridges than on disc.
I guess it's because of the fact that it's been so long since it's been at that $60 price range that I didn't even realize it.
Yeah.
Because the PlayStation 2, GameCube, and Xbox, they had it at that $49.99.
Not to mention, Nintendo Wii games were only $50 because, well, they weren't as... I'm trying to think of the right word. They didn't have the major online connectivity or HD capability like the PS3 and 360 had.
It wasn't... Some of them wasn't really that in-depth in terms of development.
Yeah, pretty much. But $60... Honestly, to be fair, I don't know, because I watched the Jimquisition on this one, actually, which I think that's pretty much where you got the whole idea.
Not just that, but it's been a discussion that's been kind of going on for quite some time, and only until, after the whole EA incident and everything that kind of spurred up the conversation. And
because $60, I understand, that games, have a lot of stuff in time to develop. And the fact that they have to have so much online service to do major updates and patches in case something happens, improve new content stuff, which if they are gonna do $60, the thing I don't understand is the fact that they're having you to pay a season pass, special editions, limited editions, microtransactions, DLC, just stuff that you have to pay more. And I wish there was a way where, because there are two games that comes to mind when I think about this, but if they're going to put in extra characters, extra stages, or anything, they have to make all of that free. Yes, you can have the $60 price label, but if you're going to add in new weapons, costumes, whatever, it should be there for free. Like Splatoon and Overwatch, because both those get... Oh, and ARMS. ARMS had that as well before it got finished.
Right.
But if developers want to put in more content for the games, they should do it for free instead of charging more, because, yes, you'll be making more profit. And it's now shown that some of the companies like Ubisoft and Blizzard has made more money with loot boxes, unfortunately. But I think about it this way, if I ran a business, I want to do it for the customers.
Right.
And you get that from them. Yes, I need to make money back, but I also need to make sure to have the customers come back, want to play more.
Exactly, and that's the core ideal that they need to think of. But the thing about it is that, and I've looked into it in several different directions, there is no real equality way of doing it. And the biggest thing that I've heard is that games should be free. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, who in their right mind comes up with that ideal scenario?
I will admit, I remember watching Jimquisition talk about that games need to be free. It's I don't know, a download, if it was a download only, then I could probably, but since a lot of games are still being released physically, we saw, Battlefront 2 was released physically, and all these other games, that I can't really see them holding out free copies with the disc for free. I couldn't see that.
But see, here's the thing that you also gotta consider too. We have multiple genres these days. We've got
genres
puzzles
that cross over together to make their own genres almost.
Yeah. We have puzzles, we have shooter, we have arcade, we have fighter, we have racing, we have RPGs, JRPGs, even though the two are in the same category.
Well, why we have them separate? Can't they just be
I don't know. It depends on the development team. Sometimes the RPG is made in America, sometimes the RPG is made in Japan, in which case it converts them to JRPGs. But the point is that we have so many different genres, so it's kind of hard to pinpoint where that line needs to be divided into. In my personal opinion, RPGs, role-playing games, should be the standard price of $60.
Because since you're getting so much gameplay time, side quests, etc.
And the reason I say this is that games like, for example, The Witcher 3, Bloodborne, and stuff like that, those are standard RPGs. Now, I can understand if a development team thought to themselves and was like, hey, we have this little project thing that we were thinking about doing like an extra sequel, but it's not enough to make a full game. Think we could add it to the main game that we just released, in which case the development team could be like, yeah, let's go ahead and just add it to the main game.
Instead of pricing it, like, how much was the Bloodborne?
The Bloodborne DLC was actually priced at $20, which is actually pretty high for what the content was.
Oh.
I mean, record, it got you 4 bosses, which is a lot. But at the same time, the map is... I'm going to call it a map for the time being.
Yeah,
the map of the DLC wasn't really that massively big. I would be okay with it if it was priced at like $15. But $20 is a little bit steep for me, in my personal opinion. Now, we enter in a different genre. For example, fighting arcade games. That's where the heavy hitter comes into play, and it's not just them, it's also racing games that's been affected as well, because at the end of the day they are an arcade form of gaming anyway. You know, you have your base game where it has a number of cars, a number of challenges, and a number of selectable characters / cars
and possible
to choose from.
Story mode as well.
Yes. The problem with that is that depending on what all is piled in there, because you've got like time trials, you've got boss rush mode, depending on if it is considered a boss or not, you've got like arcade, you've got tournament, and depending on the game itself, it has online features. So depending on how packed it is, I wouldn't say $60 would be the price that you should price it at. I think for a lot of players, $49.99, $50 would be a good price range, because
$49. Yeah, that's 40. I think that's reasonable.
Because you don't want to add it. You don't want to subtract too much, because at the end of the day, they put in a lot of work in developing
and
it.
they need a profit. So.
Exactly. And if they don't get their profit, chances are they're not going to make any more of these type of games. So $50, I think, pricing these type of genre games would be perfect, especially if they do add in extra stuff. For example, in a racing game, they could add in newer cars or older cars that wasn't thought of in the development process, in which case they would go ahead and add those. The thing about that, though, depending on the car selection as well as the pricing. Now, I'm not familiar in this genre, but my best friend TJ is. I think there was a DLC for some of the racing games in which you can get max of 10 cars, and I think he said they were priced at like $15.
$15 per car?
No, $15 for 10 cars.
Oh, that's still kind of high.
It is, and I'm trying to think, is that even fair for a DLC even after paying $60? No. However, with the $50 price range, $15, some people would go, it's
I don't know,
fair.
I'd make it cheaper, honestly, but that's just me personally.
Now, imagine fighting games, though. We've seen this for a long time. And
Smash Brothers Fighters was like, I don't know, like $6, I believe, per fighter. Like Mewtwo, Wii U, that was like $6 or something.
And to me, getting a character added onto the roster for that much is definitely pricey. Now, if we were to lower it to like $3 per fighter, and even after, the fighting game would be reduced to $50 instead of the $60, would that be a reasonable price, do you think?
I don't know, because I'm thinking, I can't remember. This isn't a fighter, but I'm just going to mention the Neptuna series. Yes, I know I mentioned it too much. I need to shut up. I can't help it. Don't blame me. Because there's additional characters that you could get. And they have their own little cutscenes events like you saw at the infamous Tekken. Just the that cutscene. Tekken, just, I don't like her. Anyway, Tekken, then Mages, and then Marvelous, AQL. They were like their own characters that you can level up, had their own special abilities, had events. And I believe, I may be wrong at this one, but I think they were like $1.99 per character.
And that's actually really good.
You get a lot of content, and I think that's reasonable because, if they were $3 or even higher, even though I loved playing as a Ryu from Street Fighter and Korn in Smash Bros. I wish they were a bit cheaper because $6 per character, that's way too much.
To me, considering the fact that so much work was done with the Neptuna games, just for one character, so much work was done.
And not to mention having to do voiceovers for not just the English bosses and the Japanese and all that, so that's not a bad price.
And keep in mind, this is just a regular RPG, to which we said to ourselves a standard $60 price is okay for an RPG.
Yeah, and I think I may be wrong. Some of them might be $2.99 as well, which still isn't bad because you're still getting a full event cutscenes that goes along as you complete each chapter and so on, which I like.
Right. But the thing is, like I said, it depends on how it's developed and everything like that. And so long as it's packed with extra content within that one segment, that's okay. But the problem is that sometimes we are falling short of terms of how much is presented to us.
Yes, DLC, I'm not against it, but there needs to be enough packed within the package in order to justify the price. The Mario Kart 8 DLCs, I know if you bought the bundle together, which keep in mind each pack had 2 cups that had 8 racetracks, 3 characters. I'm trying to think what else. I think that was about, and different carts and all that. And if you bought them together, not only would you get a reduced price to $12.99, but you also get free color Shy Guys and Yoshis in it as well. Which, that's a pretty good chunk of content.
That is. I imagine that was probably the best form of content deliverance that was given in terms of a price range.
Yeah, but at the same time, I get so nervous with the way AAA companies are thinking, because after seeing Ubisoft and Activision Blizzard gross into $4 billion just out of loot boxes alone, and this kind of irks me a little bit. I'm not gonna judge them completely, but there are YouTube channels that apparently all they do is buy say 50 or 100 loot boxes and just open each one. It's this is a YouTube channel. People are watching this.
How many subscribers do I do?
I have not checked. I just know about it, and it's
I would be okay if I heard the phrase 100, but if there's more than 100,000 people actually subscribe to something like this, watching people unboxing loot boxes in games, that's whenever you literally have to say the phrase,
"It's time to stop!"
Yes, it's time to stop!
This is cancer! Nothing against the people who do make those videos, but I just don't understand.
The loot boxes is what concerns me the most, because here's the thing about what I've been hearing about loot boxes, and thank goodness I have not run into this particular situation on my end. But the fact that some loot boxes have powerful weapons or AoE weapons that makes the game easier. But at the same time, there's also the fact that...
Actually, I just thought of an idea regarding those weapons.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, I know they may have to do additional coding, but you know how... I think I'm good, burp. Oh gosh, I was about to... Anyway. But, I don't know if we can edit that out. I don't think we can't. Anyway, moving on. You know how they have player-based matches where they try to focus on have them same level. That way you don't have a level 5 shooter going against a level 30 sniper rifle or something.
You mean increase level?
Or like how to work the same levels that can battle that's like, balanced out. That when 1 week newbie isn't facing against an expert or something. You know what I'm talking about, right?
I gotcha, but
imagine if the loot boxes a player can open them, but depending on the level, it's depending on what weapons they get. I mean, they're not going to get the super high power level when they're in level 2.
Okay, I got
they
you
get
now.
the lower weapons first, and then as they level up, they upgrade to the more higher loot boxes, which has a bit more stronger levels that can equip to their character.
In other words, if they want to get that high power weapon, they have to level up their character to that point.
And there is no way you could buy experience points. And I hate games that do that because that's just not fun. Plus, it's a guilty pleasure of mine to have my music playing, have the TV mute, and just level grind all the time. It's relaxing.
Plus, technically, you're kind of ruining the fun by not gaining the experiences yourself.
Yeah,
if you try to do that,
because you're going up like this tough enemy. And it's like, oh my gosh, this guy's so hard. You level grind a little bit, and after a few more times, you finally beat him. You feel accomplished.
Exactly.
So now with players, they buy these. I can't even think of any games, but I know there are games out there where you could buy experience points to level up and stuff. Like, you get, oh, this guy's tough. Spend $10 to get 5 extra levels. I beat him. Yay, moving on. That's not fun.
I don't like that ideal assumption. And the biggest thing that I've seemed to have noticed is that, and this is what irks me the most, is that there are a lot of games out there that are doing the exact same thing that irks other players. The City of Final Fantasy NT, thank goodness, is not completely like this. But the fact that there's a lack of story mode gameplay type thing, like there isn't really a major playable story mode thing. There is a little, but not enough to define story mode. It's just playable cutscenes that you get by unlocking these little things to progress the story mode. And you get little mission things that show up every once in a while. That's not really a story mode in terms of a fighting game.
That just sounds like doing a challenge mode.
And there's not even that much of a challenge mode anyway. And the only other one, other than just playing through online, there's just Gauntlet, which you fight up to 6 battles, and depending on the ranking of the character and stuff that you've already gotten, depends on where you start off at, and you get to choose like your next level, or you stay at that same level. That's the only major thing, but there isn't like a major arcade mode to play on.
How much did you pay for this year?
Full 60.
A full 60. I thought it was like a $49.99.
No, it was straight out 60.
And I know you got the Steelbook one.
Yeah.
Is the regular version of it 60? Oh gosh, that's...
And there's even a season pass. Wanna know how much that one is?
30. Holy crap, I got it right! Oh, I wish I was wrong.
I know, right? But thank goodness there isn't like a purchasable microtransaction type thing, because that would ruin it for me. That would be at the point
I could see you throwing the game out the window. I go out to, just take a breather. It's like, wait a second. This is... Hey, Chris, what? Oh, wait, I'm thinking back out for some reason. I'll be out there going to visit Jared. All of a sudden I see a PS4 game that got ran over by several vehicles. Maybe scratched by some cats. I don't know. I was like, hey, BlackCross, why did you... It has loot boxes. It's like, oh, I need a drink coaster.
But see, the only good redeeming factor of that game was the combat. The combat is so well done, but everything else surrounding it, they screwed it up so badly. And I'm like, this is worse than the PSP version. You had Dissidia, which the only form of story mode was where you choose your character of the main heroes and you move them on a board to progress through the story. and you fought a bunch of enemies, and then you fight the actual characters, and then you fight the hero's main villain. And then in Duodecimum, which is technically a prequel, they've updated it to where instead of a board, you explore a massive world map.
Wait a sec, if it's a prequel, how come Lightning's in it and not the other?
You would have to play the game in order to get the idea.
I'm not a real big Final Fantasy person, so I wouldn't.
But it's like they did so well in terms of changing it up, but making it better. You know, you even get to custom make your own little storyboard thing, an optional storyboard arcade game to where it can be out there for players to search for, and then they can find it and play it. There's like a little story, but then they fight a series of enemies and stuff like that to go along with it, which is awesome. They've really done really well with Duodecimum. This here downgrades it to a point to where the gameplay is the only redeeming factor, and for once I actually can give it an honest grade of a 6 out of 10.
Sounds like a whole Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite scenario.
I don't even want to go into that discussion.
Yes, not. Point is, point is $60. Depends on,
It depends on the game. In all honesty, I think there needs to be a fair judge of content for that game. And if you're going...
Maybe, how we have the ESRB rating? Make a whole rating, have a group of people looking at the content, looking at the meat and bones, hearing what upcoming stuff to have in it, if there's any plans for loot boxes, DLC, whatever, and have them, base the price of the game based on that instead of automatically switching to the $60 for AAA.
Honestly, I think that would be a good idea. The only problem is that you've got some company like EA who would try to buy their way to sell that
They
title.
can't do that. They won't be able to do that. This could be like something that's like, I don't want to say government saying...
No. The last time we do something like that, EduPie showed up all of a sudden.
No. Just not mention. Happy times. No, just have some organization that does not care if companies try to sugarcoat their way, be... What's the word? Try to be, Mr. Good Boy here, taking them out to some dates, maybe go to a movie or something. No. Regardless of this, they have to treat every company fair, look at all the product, have them lay out the ground rules of what upcoming stuff they plan on doing, and then they will price the game based on the content there. And none of the companies can say, but we want to make it $60. It's like, this doesn't have no content. It's gotta be $30 regardless.
And there you go.
Now, granted, we would need some honest people in that crowd.
How to search for these?
But
honest people?
I'm just thinking. We can dream, man. Plus, I'm not good with business. I mean, if I ran a business, we would probably be kicked out in like the first hour.
But honestly, I like that ideal better. But like you said, the only problem is finding a decent group of people who are willing to judge the game.
You can't have fanboys. Then again, if I was a fanboy, I could be like, oh boy, this new Super Smash Bros. Game's great. $30 because I can easily buy it.
Oh gosh.
See, you need honest people, because if you got fanboys, they'll price it to $20, and that way it'll be easy to get for themselves. Oh.
Okay, so let's do one more for the day, for the time being. And this one's going to be a good one, and I'm glad that you and I are actually in the same room to where we can actually do this one.
What is it?
The possibilities of the N64 Classic Edition and the scenario that it could have. So, let me go ahead and kind of build this up first, and then I'll let you take over the realms on it, because you're more familiar about the N64 than I am.
Okay.
So, we have several issues, followed by several different kind of ideals going on, and it's kind of flown around the internet as of right now. But there is no, defined answer as to, if Nintendo's going to do it or not. So...
I heard one time that they'll probably take a break.
Right.
From it. because they released the NES Classic and SNES, so it doesn't
Yeah.
make sense to keep doing it, not take a breather.
Yeah, it makes sense. So I'd say we won't be hearing it for at least another year or so. But the point is that there are certain issues that kind of holds the project at bay. For starters, you have the fact that technically these titles are bigger than the SNES edition holds. For example, you've got the NES, which holds 30 titles.
Yeah.
Then you've got the SNES that holds 21. Because of the graphic compatibility of the SNES versus the NES, that's why there's only 21. They were barely able to fit 20, but then they figured they can go for that extra step because of Star Fox 2 and give it 21. And that's why you have the 30 versus the 21 because of the graphic... what's the term I'm looking for? Graphic improvement?
No, I wouldn't want to say graphics either, because you also got to count how big the games are, like the world themselves. Heck,
Yeah.
Super Mario RPG's 32 megabytes of data.
Yeah, that is a pretty big game. But the fact is that the N64 requires a lot more data to hold for that single
I could
title.
see maybe 12 to 15. 12 to 15 I think sounds good.
15 would be definitely a good...
10, some people say that's short, so 12 to 15 I can see.
15 would be good. Now, technically, there's a lot of people say that they could easily do a 20. And I'm thinking about it, I'm like, they would have to pump a little bit more money for it to hold that 20 games.
Yeah, granted, now there is an N64 cartridge that you can hold games. I'm not sure how much, but I'm not sure how much space it can really hold. And if that can only hold up to 15 games per cartridge or something, you're looking at the Classic Edition the same way.
Right. So I would imagine the best way to go about it is that if you could do 15, then that should be your standard number. But if you go 20, then it won't hurt people if the game costs $10 more than the other two Classic Editions were, which they were like, what, $79.99?
No, the NES was about $60 and SNES was $80.
Okay, so...
Now keep in mind, the Super Nintendo had two controllers with it.
There we go. Okay, that's why. Okay, so if we were to imagine that the N64 Classic Edition, it has, let's say, because it has a couple of party games technically in
it was a party machine, definitely.
Yeah, so I'd imagine it could have two controllers at the startup kit.
And then have extra controllers to buy and stuff.
Yeah, you could buy separately. But imagine the Classic Edition, then the two controllers, and with the standard 15, that would be probably what, 90 to 100 maybe?
100 to 120, because you gotta think about how big the games are.
Exactly.
And
again, if they fit 20, that would probably increase the price a little bit more, but even still, it would be worth it to some people.
Yeah, and I think that would be fair. Because there are some games, since you got bigger games, two controllers, and everything, like it will have to be 100 to 120.
Right.
It's hard for me to imagine seeing it be priced at 80. That would be like they're selling it at a loss there.
It would. But then you enter in a second disclosure discussion, being that of Rare. As we all know, Rare is now owned by Microsoft. Now, I'm not saying that Microsoft wouldn't, but considering the fact that as of right now, copyrighted material is getting a little messy at times. So, the fact is that should we include the possibility that some of the Rare titles would be part of that collection? Or should we be optimistic and accept the idea that the chances are of them being in this Classic Edition are 0 to none? So it's like, what are the chances of Rare being part of this N64 Classic Edition? What are the chances of that possibly happening? What do you think?
It's not like we could see Donkey Kong 64 on there without a doubt. That one would definitely be on there
Because Nintendo owns the right to Donkey Kong.
GoldenEye, definitely not, because since that is 007 movie license, that ain't gonna happen, even though it was huge on the system.
And a lot of people would want that,
but Banjo-Kazooie Conker, no.
Okay.
I can't see it now. Not saying where Microsoft... I mean, heck, when they did that Smash Bros. Ballot, they were said that they can do Banjo-Kazooie on there. They could. So maybe
they would be a little bit
loose. But I'm
loose.
highly doubtful of that. And I'm also going to not count Diddy Kong Racing, since Banjo...
Even though, again, we would like to see that, chances are it probably wouldn't be on there.
The only thing I can see come close is if they port Diddy Kong Racing DS. Because Rareware actually did work on that, but Conker and Banjo were not in the game. Instead, they were replaced with, I think, Dixie Kong. And I know Whizpig and the little clock fella are playable characters in it. Oh, and the elephant. Love the elephant. It's like, hello, my friend. Abracadabra.
But the thing is that I know there's a lot of fans out there for the N64 who would want this, but at the same time...
You gotta think about, it will be nice, but you gotta think about how they will probably not really like it. Not saying they're not against it, because again, like that Smash Bros., but that's been about 3 years ago since that ballot.
Right.
And I don't know how they are now, considering that now Rareware's working on an actual game for once.
Yeah, but let's put it this way. Right now, we're gonna hold the ideal that any Rareware title, with the exception of Donkey Kong 64, any Rareware title may not actually be seen on the N64 Classic Edition.
I think Donkey Kong 64 was on a Wii Virtual Console. I think it was.
Right. But let's just, for the time being, kind of hold that in a separate area. And if for some reason, like, say, Banjo-Kazooie and then Conker's Bad Fur Day is even seen on the Classic Edition...
I do not see Conker's Bad Fur Day on that system.
But I'm
mostly because of the mature rating. And well, they got Bayonetta, but...
yeah. It matters now.
I'm having mixed emotions about this. I don't like it at all. I don't like it at all.
Well, either way, the thing is that, in all honesty, if they were actually seen on the N64 Classic Edition, at that point people can just admit the fact that, okay, at this point it doesn't matter what else you have on there, it's already got my attention. But now we enter in this discussion, which is what I wanted to bring you in, because you're more familiar as to what titles is deemed worthy of being put into this Classic Edition.
I'm not an N64 expert, but I feel very prideful, so go ahead.
Well, you have a lot more experience as to what titles they could add on there.
Right, and you said we're going to say 15.
We're going to say 15, and then after you get done saying, you could add on 5 more in case they add in the 20. But first, name off the 15 mandatory things that you think need to be on the N64 edition. 15.
Okay, well...
Let's see, you can do it, Daniel.
I can do it. Well, we all know I'm going to say Donkey Kong 64. Yes, it's made by Rare, but I think it was on the Wii Virtual Console. So that one I could definitely see being on there. Then you gotta have the classes like Mario 64. Okay, if you do the fingers like I'm doing, it's going to mess me up, so no fingers.
Okay.
I'm watching you. Then you gotta have both Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, Mario Kart 64, Super Smash Brothers. Give me time here. I'm trying to think. Dang it. Pokemon. I'm gonna say Pokemon Stadium 2 for this.
Okay, so
I know some people say why not both 1 and 2. Well,
they're both technically the same.
Yeah. Plus,
to some
2 has a lot more content since it has Pokemon from the Johto region. Plus, we played that more than we did the first one.
Yeah.
Not saying the first Pokemon Stadium was bad, but
the first Pokemon Stadium's good on its own, but even still, the second one was really good.
Yeah. So since we also mentioned that, we also got to consider the first 3 Mario Party games. Mario Party 1, I could definitely see not being on it because that stupid little spin sticky thing, and Nintendo doesn't want to go through that again. And I'm just going to go ahead and put Mario Party 2 on there. That way we could say just 1 because Mario Party 1 and 2 have has the same mini games.
The only difference is that the costumes are nice.
Yeah. Plus, I like too, but Nostalgia Blind anyway. So you see, Yoshi's Story is another one. Is it? Trying to think here.
Pokemon Snap.
Maybe. I'm gonna put that on maybe. These are the ones I'm absolutely certain definitely
okay.
not. Because not saying there's not they didn't want more Pokemon games. No, it'll be
right, but
I'm,
still.
I'm just thinking ahead. Try not to overload.
The 15 mandatories, which so far you've got 9.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the shelf right now. Gosh, I can't see with that stupid couch in the way. Paper Mario.
Okay.
Paper Mario is a definite must. I mean, that's where that series got started. So of course, bear with me.
I know you're doing good. You've got 10
I
so
know.
far.
I know you're not gonna cut any of this out. It's like stupid editing voodoo. That's one thing I don't like about podcasting. Just hate it so much.
But you've already got like 10 so far, so you're doing good. You're doing a lot better than I did.
I know people are gonna complain in the comment book saying, "Why didn't you choose this?" And I'm sorry, and I'm looking at the games here, man. Wave Race 64. I just thought of Wave Race because I know maybe also Pilot Wings as well, because that was a launch title as well, and I could definitely see that on the system. Kirby 64, like the Crystal Shards.
Right.
That one has to be on there. Actually, yeah, we're going to put Pokemon Snap in just to be the safe side. And then, I'm trying to think of one more. Man, this sucks.
What about Star Wars?
Star Fox 64.
Oh, Star Fox.
Of course.
Oh, gosh.
Of course.
Why did we forget Star Fox?
I have no idea! I feel horrible. People can tell me I suck, but I don't care. I'm tired. I'm sleepy. My belly's full. So, patience.
But now that we've named off 15 mandatory games, what about the 5 in case they decide to bump it up to 20? What other 5 could they add on there if they felt like, okay, we can do 20 instead of 15? What are the other 5 that they could add?
I actually thought there's a few titles. There's Sin and Punishment. This was only released in Japan, but it has English voiceovers.
Oh, it does?
Yes, I actually have it on the Wii U Virtual Console, so I could definitely see that being on there possibly.
That'd be interesting then.
Ogre Battle 64, I believe that one was on the Virtual Console for the Wii as well. I never played it because it's kind of not super hard to find, but not as common, so I could definitely see. I forgot Mario Golf and Mario Tennis, but I didn't want to overload so much Mario.
Right, but say they had to pick between the 2 sports titles. Which one do you think?
Mario Tennis, I think, would be ultimate. Because Mario Tennis is very popular.
Oh, it
very
is.
Popular.
Now that you think about it,
because you see that more than Mario Golf or Mario. Because it's like.
Come to think of it, there hasn't been another Mario Golf since then, huh?
No, there was a 3DS one.
Really?
Yeah.
I knew that the GameCube was like the latest one.
There was one on the 3DS. I forgot what it's called, but there was a Mario Golf on 3DS. But yeah, but Mario Tennis is like more popular because it's been on every single console since the N64. It was also on the Game Boy, the DS, 3DS. Yeah, it was on. I think it was on the Wii. I think it was not the whole Motion Plus where they add motion controls to porting the GameCube over. I mean, an actual original Mario Tennis. I'm thinking I may be wrong on this. I know the comment section's gonna complain about this, but regardless. You see, I'm trying to think whatever N64 games. This one's gonna be stressed, but I actually really like this one. Pokemon Puzzle League, maybe.
That one's a really good one. I like that one. But they could add any puzzle game because it's not. It doesn't even have to be Pokemon Puzzle League. It could be if Disney would allow them to. The Mickey magical one.
The Magical Tetris Challenge.
Yeah, technically it's a puzzle. It's a puzzle type game as well.
I could see more of Tetris Sphere more than that because Disney.
Yeah.
So I don't see that.
So I guess Pokemon Puzzle League would be the one then. Plus, it does have a little bit more content than the Disney one.
I forgot F-Zero X. People talk about the game all the time.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so F-Zero X, that one will have to be on there. Pretty much, a lot of it will have to focus because N64 was known as the party machine. Because you gotta think about it. Even though the PlayStation 1 was more popular, you gotta remember it did not have the best like multiplayer. Like you had to get that little link thing.
It didn't.
Or you could do the console linking bollocks that no one ever used. So, and the N64 had 4 controller ports, so it's like, oh, we could just put 4 controllers in instead of like having to find the controller adapter and then another controller adapter and then another controller adapter and all that stuff. So it's like, so of course I would see more multiplayer stuff, so obviously a lot of that would be on there as well.
So, needless to say, we've already got quite a bit of list built up, even without adding the rare titles. I mean,
yeah,
it has a possibility even without us. So,
I mean, it would be interesting if they could, but in the world we live today, I don't see that happening.
right.
And even if Donkey Kong 64 doesn't end up on the either, you're still getting a great library of games. I think. I mean, you're getting 2. The most acclaimed Legend of Zelda games, even though Breath of the Wild is my favorite. But regardless.
There is one thing I do hope they don't do when they do, or if they do, N64 Classic Edition.
More.
The multicolors. I hope they don't do multicolor consoles, because you know collectors out there would go for collecting every single different color just because. Because, I mean, technically when the N64 came out later on, they added different color console. They had an orange one. I believe they had a green one, didn't they?
They had a bunch of colors.
So there you go. I hope they don't do that, because that would drive me nuts.
I don't see that happening, though. That I could see, like, maybe make a whole, you know, that Nintendo store in New York, make an exclusive color for and then they'll be bombarded, and like they're opening the doors. All of a sudden, there's like 500 people running over the poor guy. It's like, why are you guys running over me? We want the extra controller. We only have 3 in stock, and we always sell them out because people pre-ordered them. They break through the windows, just enraged and is upset.
That's the Black Friday special bundle.
But I say next 2019 or even 2020. Oh gosh,
I see 2019 being the year that they would be like, okay, we've given ourselves enough time. Let's work on this and see what we can do.
Yeah.
So, needless to say, there could be a possibility, but won't be for the next year or two, I say. Like you said, they're going to take a break from this, obviously. And then whenever they feel like, okay, there's been enough time, let's go ahead and try to work on this and see what happens. Because, like you and me, we grew up with the N64, where everybody else grew up with like the NES or the SNES. But honestly, when we talked about the ideal potential of the N64, when we talked about our friends and stuff like that, the response is actually well surprised. Like, there was a lot of people that says, oh, the N64, yes, that's my jam. And I was like,
yeah,
wow.
Which is weird because it sold 32 million, while the PlayStation 1 sold 100 million. Or 101, I can't remember. 101 Dalmatians!
But the thing is that it's a very memorable console. Despite the fact that...
Plus, it was kind of like even though Nintendo had some little issues with third parties, the N64 kind of like started a little awkward relationship with third parties, because Capcom and Squaresoft was huge with like the NES and SNES, but they barely made many games for the N64
because they moved on to like the PlayStation 1.
Yeah, because technologically and some legal issues, not legal, but some issues with like publishing games on a system. Mostly because they were, being careful with. I'm gonna burp again, dang it. With quantity over quality.
Yeah.
And trying to avoid not doing a whole another video game crash, but the N64 kind of like started a whole rocky third party relationship a little bit, at least in my opinion. But it's still a great console, and the history behind it's just really amazing. So, but yeah, that's why I think some of the games are, and I know I'm probably gonna miss 1 or 2 others, but there's too many good games on the N64, so it's like yeah, people will mention it in the comments section, whatever. So
Yeah, there's too many to say, but even still, we can only hope and we can see what happens.
yeah, we can dream.
So anyway, though, that's going to be it for this podcast. Delmar, do you want to close with anything per se, or?
Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any suggestions to how we can improve some more podcasts, whether audio, video, whichever wise, just please comment down. And if you have like to suggest topics, discussions for future podcasts, just email us at danielmullinsfleet@gmail.com. And yeah, just submit ideas and suggestions right through there. So yeah.
Yep, and be sure to either subscribe to me or Delmar and check out our content. So we'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, so bye-bye.
See you guys.
Bye. Hey, my elf's not popping this time. When it usually pops a lot when I'm doing the waving at Kingdom Hearts playthrough. Wish check that out. But channel plug. So, or is it this on that pops a lot?
There we go.
Stop laughing. I need to oil my joints.
See you later, guys.